That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Poker Face, the sophomore directorial effort directed by Russell Crowe, which Screen Media Films is releasing midweek, November 16th, 2022.
What is Russell's first film?
The Water Diviner from 2014, which I do remember seeing and not loving, but nice sandstorms, girl. This title...
There are sandstorms in the
Yeah,
movie?
it's about an Australian traveling to Gallipoli, or Turkey after the Battle of Gallipoli. And the Steve Bastoni, who is in this film, was also there. And yeah, anyway, I don't remember that much of it. I just remember being a little dry. What I couldn't get out of my head watching this film is that joke, how do you wake up Lady Gaga?
Poker Face? Mm-hmm. Oh, God. Well, I didn't care for this movie. I didn't find it difficult to sit through. I just think the story is silly.
It's a mishmash of many things, and it's also highly derivative.
And I didn't like how it was shot.
No, Aaron McLisky. Has done a lot of short work and has 2 features out this year. I don't know if there were budget restrictions because they're trying to do a lot with a little. It feels.
Yeah. Okay. The basic story is Russell Crowe has a group of friends who we see in the opening of the film he met as a teenager. Specifically, it was him as a teenager and his good friend, this black guy.
Andrew. Mm-hmm.
Andrew. And they're like on some cliff. It's set in Australia. And they bump into some other guys. They start gambling. And then they start arguing because one of the guys wants his money back. So the 5 of them are like sort of about to fight when some even bigger bullies show up. And then the 5 guys fight against the bullies, assuming that made them lifelong friends. So we fast forward like 40 years and we find Russell Crowe.
At a museum.
So what do we know about Russell Crowe? So he and his friend Andrew, who now is an adult, is played by RZA. Mm-hmm. We're told that in like 1994 they started the first like online gaming platform, and which was a huge hit, and they parlayed that into like a military surveillance software. Mm-hmm. So they're like billionaires. Okay, so Russell Crowe has set up this scenario where he has brought the 3 friends, because his main friend RZA is like good to go, but the 3 auxiliary friends, he like lures them to like one of his mansions in the countryside.
Alex, Paul, and Michael.
To play a game of poker. And immediately it all feels weird, like what's going on? And the 3 guys all drive to his mansion. Like they meet at Russell's like city like penthouse where he has like 50 luxury cars in the garage, and Russell's assistant tells each guy like, oh, pick the car you want to drive to the mansion. And then when they get there, Russell goes, oh, those cars you drove, which are all super expensive, they're yours. And of course they're like, great, thanks, but if you want we can play for higher stakes, $5 million per person to be precise,
or you can take the car and sit it out.
And of course, they all want the money because they kind of need it. Mm-hmm. And he does we can get into the game because it's really not explained what, like, if they lose, what happens. But anyway, we find out that basically Russell has brought these 3 friends there to drug them with, like, a truth serum.
That he got in another opening sequence from a shaman.
We need to talk about that in greater detail. But the truth serum also makes them feel sick. So Russell says, well, I did this because I want you to know how I feel, because I'm dying of pancreatic cancer. But
which is coming from a mile away based on all of the actions that are taken. Like, oh, something is going on in this man's life where he's gonna.
And the truth serum part doesn't make sense because Russell is surveying I messed up that word before. Surveying, is that the word? He's watching his friends because he has surveillance. So
no, it was surveilled, and I think it was a play. It was a play on the word veil in that word that somebody was saying. Yeah.
Anyway, he already knows his friend's secrets, which we'll get into, but he, like, all is revealed. And then we find out that, there's an incident outside. Then we find out that one of the friends, his brother is blackmailing him. And part of the blackmail is that he gave the guy, like, Russell's information. So in the middle of this, like, poker game, truth serum, death wish, some criminals break in to steal some art. So Russell and his 4 friends, because now RZA's there, go into his panic room. And we got to talk about the panic room. But ultimately, they're able to kill the 3 intruders.
Russell Crowe, Jake Foley, is drawn out of his panic room because all of a sudden the wife and
the
daughter show up because the daughter, Rebecca, has gone into his office and found his medical diagnosis and has confronted the mother with it, who also explains that she's cheating on him with one of his good buddies because he had a vasectomy without telling her.
Well, we need to get into all of this, but they
show up.
They kill the 3 intruders, and then immediately we cut to the reading of the will because Russell Crowe has died, and then we can get into what everyone was given. But there is a lot going on. Most of it does not make sense to me. Everything from the way the burglars enter the house to the panic room situation to why he needed to drug his friends to tell them he's dying to the actual what he gives them in the will. Well, and the opening, none of it makes sense to me.
So that's the plot, but backing up, he goes to this this retreat where I don't know.
Why don't you talk about before the retreat?
The art house, the museum. He's at Jake Foley is looking longingly at all of these museum art pieces, and this woman approaches him and she's like, "God, I really liked how you were looking at that art. You really were taking it in. Can I interview you?" And that's how we get some exposition about him. And he has a line where he says, "I'm 57 and I'm a gambler," because that's also something they're trying to tack on at the reading of the will. He's like, "Part of my money is donating to people that have gambling addictions." Like, okay, is that really your problem? Because you seem to be doing quite well for yourself financially. But then he goes to, we see him driving, and it looks very much like a car commercial, to this retreat where, you go to take mescaline and stay for a week and connect with your spirit. It's run by, what's his name? Jack Thompson, who's a notable Australian actor. And he just randomly, at the end of this, we get this montage, and we don't understand what experience he's really having with himself, because we don't really know this character yet. But at the end of it, he gives him this little, leather box and says, "Here, you can take this with you." So that was the impetus for this character?
Well, yeah, so
because if he hadn't had that, he wouldn't have thought to...
The montage retreat serves no purpose except for him to get a hold of this, medication that will... Like the truth serum. I thought that was ridiculous.
But if you take too much, it can kill you, which right away we know, well, that's probably going to happen. And
then immediately when he gets to the mansion, we see him, rubbing the wine glasses with something. So it's okay, well, this is not a friendly game of poker. There's just so much that...
Well, so then we meet these friends and...
Oh, describe the friends. So one is Liam Hemsworth.
Playing Michael, who... What is he wearing? A windbreaker? And he has a little man ponytail.
So they're all supposed to be the same age. So they give Liam, gray beard, gray hair. They give him wrinkles, which I thought the makeup actually looked really good. He still doesn't look old enough to be the same age as Russell Crowe. So, and... Liam's issue is that he's kind of like an alcoholic and makes poor financial decisions.
Yes.
Then there's
Paul, played by Steve Bastoni. He's the one whose relative is the one breaking in.
So Paul is an Australian politician, and he's caught up in some scandal in addition to his brother...
Paul the politician,
whose brother is blackmailing him. Then the third person...
I believe that's Alex, played by Aden.
So Alex seems to be doing all right, financially.
He's a writer,
because he's the only one who says, I don't need to do this gambling thing. I'm doing all right. I'll just take the car. But we find out that man is having an affair with Russell Crowe's wife because...
Brooke Satchwell. Nicole.
She wants children. Russell Crowe doesn't. But it's made to seem more like he can't give her children. And then we find out that he had a vasectomy, like you mentioned. And he did that after he found out he had pancreatic cancer. Presumably, but it's not explained. So, he did that to protect his wife from having one of his children, knowing he's going to die?
But it's just so this is the only reason you decided to sleep with one of his good friends. You couldn't go a little further outside of that.
Yeah,
circle.
That was weird. Okay, so the burglars. I mean, it's comical how stupid they are.
Benedict Hardie plays the one named Styx, who seems,
He's the leader.
No, he's the one who's very effete and
Oh, the one
knows
who knows
all about art.
Okay, they show up and they don't have a plan. They just know the address to this house and that it's filled with art. They don't know what kind of art. So they bring this art like historian. They get in a I mean, they're not comical like they're being funny. It's just so stupid.
No, but he's like very slowly perusing, like, this might be worth that. We could take that. I don't know.
They enter this home not knowing who's there, what kind of security there is, and like you just said, they are wandering around contemplating each piece of art and what it might be worth, taking their sweet time. And it's not until they get deep into the house they realize, like, oh, maybe someone's here. And then that's when Russell Crowe is in his panic room and he shows them that I'm watching you because their image pops up on a big screen. And instead of these guys like making a break for it, instead of Russell Crowe calling the police, they're just sort of arguing with each other over the video.
And they find a Cezanne, which is worth millions, and you can't just steal art that costs that much.
The centerpiece of the house is like this $200 million piece of art, but then there are all these other pieces, and then Russell Crowe even tells them, like, you just can't, like, you can't just take this shit and sell it.
Right.
It was just so idiotic. But I'm more confused. Why didn't Russell Crowe call the authorities? They were in a panic room. They could have stayed there and waited for the police to show up.
There's a line about how they're, like, deep underground at this level in the house, and I don't know if that was supposed to justify why they don't.
So you've made billions of dollars doing surveillance, and you didn't think to make your panic room like communications friendly?
Well, if you have that much money and you have a panic room, there should be a button that you push for the authorities.
Also, you have all that technology, all that money, and he had no security at the house. All there was a gate. There was no notification that someone's entered the gate.
Well, because he's playing games, right? He tells the chef to leave for the night.
I know.
We haven't even talked about Penelope.
Yeah, but when someone comes to our front door, my phone goes off. Like,
Sure.
I mean, how can this person not know that there are people entering?
In fact, they have to murder someone to get the code with the gate to get in, which also is nonsensical. Because the man that they kill, who gets punctured by the gate, gives them the code at the last minute. It's like, if you knew you were going to give it, why didn't you not wait till the last second? But Penelope, played by Elsa Pataky, who is Chris Hemsworth's wife and the recent star of Interceptor.
She plays the poker dealer at this little event, and I just thought she was awkward.
She's awkward. I mean, she's a beautiful lady, but the dialogue and her role is so inconsequential. Like,
I thought she looked crazy. I mean, sure, she's a pretty lady, but the way they have her styled, the way she's talking, it just seemed like, why even have her in it? It would probably been better to have someone we don't recognize at all, and that person doing, because generally dealers aren't supposed to, they will often have dealers who are very attractive, but usually they're just like a blank slate that's just dealing cards. So it seemed odd that, I don't know, because also Russell Crowe doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would like objectify women. So why do you have this scantily clad lady? I don't know.
And warned her ahead of time, like once my guys start drinking, they might make odd comments. Like, okay.
Yeah, that seemed really out of character for the kind of stuff he gets into. RZA doesn't have a single thing to do.
Nope, surely doesn't. But I think he's friends with Russell Crowe, right?
Okay.
Which is funny because I remember there was that Russell Crowe had that incident with Azalea Banks, and she starred in a movie directed by RZA, Love Beats Rhymes.
Oh.
Which isn't a bad film actually, and her performance was fine in that.
Okay, the reading of the will. So we're told that. So the three friends each get $50 million. So for Liam Hemsworth, the instruction is that he has to go to rehab for a year. And if he completes it, he can...
Michael is the voiceover.
He can have the $50 million. The friend whose brother blackmailed him, he gets $50 million. The other friend who his wife was cheating on him with gets $50 million plus... He tells them that I'm setting up like trust funds for all of your future kids together. That took me out.
I mean, how many is she gonna have?
Then we presume that RZA's character owns like half the business. So he's there, but he's good because he knows he owns half this business. And then Russell Crowe tells his daughter like,
listen to your what do they call them? Your dysfunctional uncles, or
you're gonna get my share of the business and listen to RZA. Like listen to everything RZA says, and that all your dysfunctional uncles are good people. And then the other half of his money is going to charity, including to families affected by gambling addiction. I thought that was laughable.
The only thing missing is a website to visit in the end credits if you know anybody that has a gambling addiction. And he, awkwardly in the script, this was written by Stephen M. Coates, where it's told in an original script, so Russell Crowe must have taken it and made his little changes. But he quotes Sir Isaac Newton twice. It's not as smart as it's trying to be. Even this thing about these men that are breaking into a place while an event is happening that they didn't plan for. There are many films you could think of. The one that keeps getting stuck in my mind is we relatively recently reviewed that film See For Me with the blind girl that's house sitting. And anyway, there are many more, of course.
This film's just not clever, and I don't understand the point of why he needed to drug his friends to tell them he's dying, to then ultimately give them a bunch of money. He could have just had an honest conversation with them and set up rules for how he's trying to help them. Like, this just seemed really elaborate for no reason. And then you have the coincidence of being burglarized that same night. And
yeah, so is it a drama? Is it an action film? I don't know that...
A heist movie?
It doesn't really do well in any of those fronts.
The daughter I thought was weird because we meet her with her asking for money and then she's being a little deceptive. So I thought, oh, why are we setting her up like this? Because then in the end, she's very emotional about her dad.
Well, in that scene, he's counting out all these bills because she wants some jacket at the mall, and she's like, it's cute. And then she goes, it's more cute than that. And then he counts out more bills, and then she awkwardly gets up and goes out the window and gets teary-eyed
about her dead mama. Like, okay.
Okay. And then even at the teary-eyed pout face at the reading of the will, it's like, okay, it's sad your dad died, yes, but you're going to be absolutely fine. I don't know.
Yeah.
This could have been the straight man's It's My Party. Remember that film?
This just could have been more...
No?
Yes, I do. I just feel like it could have... I mean, to me, the better story would have been to not have the burglary, to set up this... And I know it's derivative, but set up this thing where all the people come and, you know, like under false pretenses for this guy to reveal all these truths. And so, it could have been something a little more interesting, but I just think that the writing wasn't up to snuff.
Well, and then for a film called Poker Face is also misleading because it drops the ball on
there really isn't even a good poker game that's happening.
No, it made me want to rewatch Paul Schrader's The Card Counter, actually.
What would you give this movie?
1.5.
I would give it 1.5 out of 5. Anything else?
No.
Hit the thanks button. Listen to our podcast. Bye.